Just imagine, you live in a world where besides humans there are other thinking species, which are half beasts and half monsters, who have just made a peace treaty with humanity, and by a mistake of a government agent, a half-snake girl goes to live with you, and now you are obliged to take care of her and other girls who want to marry you at all costs. I am Lancelot, and today's anime is Monster Musume. The story begins by showing the protagonist Kimihito waking up until he looks to the side and a half-snake girl named Mia was wrapped around him. She was doing it for warmth, but ended up squeezing too hard, and to save herself he had to hold on to a sensitive spot on her ass, thus saving himself from death and making her get there. In this world, there are other races besides humans, people with both human and animal or monster traits. Recently, humans in these races made a peace pact, and to seal this friendship, they decided to create an interspecies exchange law. Since then, the conflicts between the two species have diminished greatly, and the culture of both peoples has blended. Kimihito was living his ordinary life, until one day a government agent named Smith brought Mia to his home, mistaking the address of the real people who were supposed to take care of her, but in the end, it forced him to be the girl's host. Her house has had several renovations in order to accommodate her, from increasing the furniture in rooms to installing a giant bathtub, which Mia uses for warmth and to try to get the protagonist by her side. Smith went to breakfast with them, and revealed some of the rules to us. Humans cannot hurt those on exchange, and they cannot hurt people either, at the risk of being deported. By the way, taking the virginity of any of the girls is also considered hurting, and if he does it, she will be sent home and he will be arrested. Seeing Agent Smith getting funny for her mail, Mila gets pissed and catches him with her ass. She tells why she loves Kimihito. Most humans hate lamias because they are half snake-bodied, so she was very worried about how he would react. However, to her surprise, the protagonist accepted her with a smile. Now she is totally in love with him, and tries again to do that with Kimihito, but because of his excessive strength she ends up dislocating his shoulder. The two go on a date, even though in reality it is just him fulfilling his role as host and taking care of her on an outing. Although the town still does not have all the stores equipped to receive all the species, Mia ends up having a great time, until they find a lingerie store. Basically, she takes him to the fitting room and tries on some models, even though on a daily basis she does not wear a bra. Leaving the store, they run into some human assholes, who laugh at Mia and the two of them together. Angry, she tries to assault them, but Kimihito steps in front, being shot for her sake, for if Mia hurt a human, she would be deported back to her homeland. Several people start recording and laughing at the two of them, and to escape this situation, they enter an adult hotel. The protagonist is very embarrassed, afraid of what she might do, until at one point he thinks about sleeping with her. Suddenly, however, there is an explosion. It is Smith, with other government agents, who because of the internet found the two of them. On their way out, they again come face to face with the couple of assholes, who ridicule Mia again. However, this time the protagonist did not let it go cheap, throwing a super punch at the guy and sending them both flying far away. Back at home, Smith dresses Kimihito and tells him that they have taken care of the couple of assholes. Mia asks him why he did it, and he replies that he could not forgive them for being so mean to a girl. She is very happy and tries again to grab him by the hand, but is interrupted by Smith, who wants free dinner. While laying out clothes together, Mia tells how happy she is with what Kimihito did for her the day before. Suddenly, a harpy appeared and abducted the protagonist. Her name is Poppy, and while they were eating ice cream she reveals that she is also part of the exchange and was together with a coordinator. The protagonist understands that if Poppy doesn't behave she will be deported. But as she says this she knocks over his ice cream, and as he is nice he gave her his popsicle. And yes, this has turned into a scene where it looks like she is, how can I put this, playing basketball with him. Because she was so licked, the harpy eagle decides to bathe in the fountain next to them completely naked. Leaving the protagonist who was involved in this with much shame, Mia appears furious that she has stolen her beloved. The two fight and show more than they should. As I looked at the people, they were focused on something else, a little girl who had got stuck in a tree. Poppy tries to help but can't because his feathers are wet, so Mia climbs the tree, but ends up scaring the child who falls, but before she reaches the ground, Poppy holds her, and when the two are falling, Kimihito uses his body to protect them. After the situation is resolved a policeman appears, asking who was responsible for them. Afraid they will deport Poppy, the protagonist says he is responsible for the two, and Agent Smith shows up to confirm the story. Already at home, we understood how she already had the harpy's papers. Since she is very flighty, no family wanted to host Poppy, so her plan was to go to him to make him take care of the harpy too. However, she ran away once again. Now another girl will live with them, and she is the same age as Mia, and when she found out about this she became very jealous. While returning from the market, Kimihito is run over by a centaura. Her name is Centauria and she is the literal meaning of female horse. She is from an honorable family, and is in search of a knight to call master. Suddenly, a girl who was walking by is mugged by a man on a motorcycle. Honorable as she is, she won't let it go cheap, but because of the laws, she can't hit that man. So you need the protagonist's help for that. She doesn't let him ride her at first, but eventually accepts for the greater good. They manage to stop it, although she ends up losing her top in the process. With Centauria's sword, which fell in the middle of the confusion, the bandit tries to cut it down. However, the protagonist steps in front, taking a fatal blow. Or at least that's what he thought. In reality, that sword is not real, so only wounding him a little. In a connection with Smith, he understands the gravity of having ridden the mackerel. One of the centaur's commandments is that only riders chosen by them can ride them. From her perspective, that is very similar to marriage. Discovering this, the protagonist knelt down asking forgiveness, which she accepted, understanding that it had not been his fault, and asking him to call her Saria. Because she saw him risk his life to protect her, she fell in love with Kimihito. Moreover, she swore her life and loyalty to him. The next day, the protagonist understands how complicated life with the three will be. First thing in the morning, Mia was teaching Poppy and trying to convince Saria that since she is the oldest one there, she should be in charge. And meanwhile, he was calling Smith, because, since he got a beating from Saria for going into the bathroom and seeing her naked and non-humans cannot assault ordinary people, the protagonist had to explain that it was not her fault, so there are no problems or risk of deportation. While she and Mia were fighting, Poppy asked Kimihito to give her a bath. In the bathroom he puts her in a swimsuit and the girl reveals that she wants a big brother like him. But since she doesn't quite understand the role of a brother, she tries to attack him. Saria saves him with a bow and arrow and carries him away on her back. In a park, the centaur asks the protagonist to walk hand in hand, which she does, making her very happy. The other girls appear, ready to have a deadly battle for their beloved. Thinking Kimihito was in danger, Agent Smith, who was nearby, threw tranquilizer darts at the three. However, in order to protect them, he steps in front of them, fainting immediately afterwards. At home, they were very embarrassed that they had made him hurt himself because of them. They say that they would control themselves, without bothering him anymore. However, he tells them to act as usual, because they are a family. Smith reveals that one thing has changed in the interspecies exchange. Now a marriage can happen between them. And she was looking for a test couple for this, so she wants him to choose one of the three to marry. They love the idea, and now plan to conquer him at any cost. The night comes, and so does their animation. First with Mia attacking the protagonist, followed by Poppy and Saria. They are like that because it is a full moon, and when that happens the non-humans get too excited to do those things. Afraid of dying, because they don't know how to control their strength, Kimihito runs, hides, and calls Smith. She doesn't help him at all, only telling him to talk to them. With the refrigerator open, they attack him, but get a scare because of some ketchup on the floor. It looked like he was bleeding, and when he got up they saw that he was fine, attacking him again. The next morning they talked, and he decided that he will go out on a date with the three. This way you will choose who you will marry. Kimihito was cooking dinner as usual, until when he opens the pot, Mia is surprised by a strange being, which almost drowns her. Centauria explains that it was a slime, and says that he didn't have to worry, because she would protect him. Suddenly slime comes back and Centaur's sword is useless, and the two of them end up all licked. The protagonist decides to take a bath. However, she had the same idea, but since she was not able to wash herself properly he helps her. As they talked they realized that what that slime wanted was the water, meaning that the two of them were in the worst possible place. The monster appears, and Centauria tries to use the protagonist's sword as a weapon. The slime turns out to be a very respectful girl, who tries to imitate what the other girls did in Kimihito, thus becoming something quite improper. She almost drowned him, and to save himself he had to throw himself into the bathtub. While talking to Mia and Centauria about the situation, they see that Poppy has been playing with her, and that she has greatly decreased in size. The harpy named her Sue, and decided to run away with her new friend, because hearing that they planned to turn her over to Agent Smith, she was afraid that they would arrest her. In fact, they gave her a raincoat to make her look less obscene and dressed up, which even helped a little. Kimihito goes after the two and ends up saving Sue from a fall. As they were near a river she struggled for fear of falling there and dying, so she ended up falling off Poppy. The little girl they had rescued from the tree and other children appear to play with the harpy, which, even without the protagonist's consent, did this frequently. Sue also joins in the fun, making the horny kids very happy. Until while they were on the street, the same couple of assholes, who had hurt Mia, were in a car speeding towards the children. Before the vehicle hits her, Sue appears and saves her. However, the wall ends up being damaged and she falls towards the river. Poppy tries to catch her, but because she is very slippery, he doesn't hold her for long. When she had given up hope that her friend was okay, the protagonist picked up the crashed truck and threw it into the river, saving Slime. And seeing that the girl was a good person, he decided that he will let her live with them. However, when he arrives home, he bumps into Agent Smith. The next day, while they were planning what they would do with this government business, some men from a construction company showed up to remodel Kimihito's house again. Afraid of being agents to pick up their new friend, the three run away. The protagonist thinks that Smith had a room made for Sue and that everything was fine, so he goes after the girls, who are having problems with Slime, because while they were hiding from some government agents, they ended up getting wet, and because he likes water, he started drying them off in a very naughty way. Kimihito saves a girl who was in a wheelchair going uncontrollably down a slope. Her name is Mero and she is a mermaid, who upon hearing that he was looking for 3 non-human girls, says that she saw them and where they were. Once there, Mia was in a duel against Sue, who caught her distracted by the arrival of her lover. After defeating all 3, the slime goes after Mero, but the protagonist saves her by putting Sue in a bag. Returning home, they see their new room, which is a giant swimming pool. They ask Smith if this was for Sue, but it is not the case. That was for the new resident of the house, the mermaid Mero. By the way, about the slime, Agent Smith is clearly turning a blind eye, pretending she doesn't know that an illegal exchange student is there. Upon seeing Kimihito carrying Mero on his lap, Mia becomes very jealous, accidentally breaking her wheelchair, and causing him to have to carry her all the time on his lap. Mia now sees her as a rival in love, even more so when the mermaid asks if Kimihito has a girlfriend. Mia tries everything to make the protagonist notice her and make Mero uncomfortable, but nothing works out. She tries to ally herself with the others to do this, which does not occur, as they become friends with the mermaid. Mia reveals to Centuria that she also wants to be carried by him, like a princess, and comes to the conclusion that Mero is seducing Kimihito with her bikini, so she will do the same, with a super provocative bathing suit. Even if it was overshadowed by the centaur's beautiful front commission. In the confusion, Kimihito and Mero end up falling into the pool. Thinking to save them, Mia jumps into the water. But because it is very cold, it ends up going to the bottom, almost drowning. However, the protagonist shows up and takes her away. The mermaid gets super worried, showing that he liked her and didn't understand what she was trying to do. While taking a shower together, Mia apologizes for everything, and says that it's okay for her to want to marry the protagonist as well. However, this is not the case. In reality, she does not want a romance, but a disappointment, to have an unrequited love with him, and while they are dating or married, she will be a great lover. The next day, Mia decided that she would become the cook of the house, in order to be the best choice for Kimihito's wife. However, she is terrible at this and ends up burning both her hands badly. The time for her skin change has come, but since she has no way to peel herself, Kimihito has decided to help her. And honestly, I never in my life thought I would see a snake girl being flaked on by a guy, as if the two of them were doing those things. What I am doing with my life. Everything is fine, until he gets to the front region, and because he had his eye covered by Mia's tail, he ends up putting his hand where it shouldn't be. She decided to cook for him again, almost killing him again. By the way, we find out why the others have not appeared for all this time. They also tried this food and decided to run away from it. Poppy tells everyone that he is about to lay an egg. Upon hearing this, the girls beat the crap out of Kimihito, thinking that he did just what you are thinking. However, this was not the case. From time to time, harpies lay eggs, much like chickens. Suddenly, a very strange man appears at their door, claiming to be a director and that he was making a documentary of the interspecies exchange. They accept, because the man said it was for the sake of their good relationship. His main focus is to record Poppy hatching the egg. However, everything starts to get very strange. After several embarrassing questions and requests, we understood that what he was doing was not for the good of the species, but to profit from intimate videos of the girls and things that some strange people would pay a lot for. He also tries to take for himself the skin that Mia had peeled off, and he succeeds, telling her that this way the protagonist will ask her to marry him. Poppy's egg has begun to hatch, and everyone goes there together to help, especially Kimihito, who acts like a father in childbirth, and while he was recording, Sue showed a new ability by putting one of his tentacles on his head, managing to reproduce what he was thinking, thus making the girls furious, but because of the law they could not assault him. However, Kimihito could, and throwing an egg to distract him, punches the wretch in the face, destroying the egg and his camera. And easy folks, it was not Poppy's egg, but a common one he had bought at the market. At dinner, Smith joins them and asks what they would be having, and made by Mia the dish of the evening is her specialty, boiled egg. And it makes sense, being that she is half snake. The scene cuts to the con man in his house, until we discover that he has an accomplice, a half-spider monster girl, who finding out that Kimihito didn't mind the egg, even though it cost 3 million yen, became very interested and decided she would meet him. Some orcs were causing a mess at a manga store, with guns taking some hostages, not knowing what they would do, since humans can't hurt other beings. Yes, that law is well broken. The government had to appeal to Agent Smith, who sends his group of special girls to the service, for having the very good sense of smell, managing to sniff anything in a radius of 1 kilometer. The orcs end up finding one of them and killing her. They were there with a goal, that the Japanese did adult works, involving the orcs and human girls and other races. Suddenly, they find a girl much like one of the works they liked, so they decided to do evil with her. In front of the window of the store, a sniper a mile away destroys all their weapons. That was the Cyclops, Monaco. A giant person in armor appears, taking out 2 bandits and saving the hostages. That's the ogre, Tionisha. The agent who was dead on the ground gets up, putting popcorn in 2 more, but being caught in the process, which was not a problem, because shooting her own body can hit him. This is the healthiest zombie in the world, the Zombine-chan. The last orc thought he had the advantage by still having a hostage, but already discovers his mistake, taking a kick in the face. In reality she was not a helpless girl, but rather the doppelganger Doppel, and with Smith appearing there we know the name of the group, the New Order of Monsters. He surrenders, mocking that they could no longer be violent with him, however, did not expect that Smith was too angry that he had to work more than his job paid her, so using Doppel as an excuse, gives a lesson in the orc. Already in the protagonist's house, Smith has always appeared for a visit, but this time not alone, took his group along. However, they were not there for a walk. When going to the house of the Farchanti arrest him for what he tried to do in the house of Kimihito, they found him injured in a cocoon of web, with traces of an arachne, which fled before they could arrest her. There they found a paper with his address, so they were there for the protection of all. While Smith told what happened, Kimihito had gone to the market. Poppy and Sue were bringing some food home, and when they went to see was the purchases of the house, and he was kidnapped by the spider. In an abandoned warehouse Kimihito was imprisoned. Her name is Rachnera, and surprised his tranquility or Sela. It seems she has some resentment towards humans, and wants to prove that he is like everyone else. A little guard appears, and they go up to hide, for being face on in that place. The protagonist is very excited. The little guard with fear goes away, and she tells her story. The family that took her in didn't like much what they saw, so they treated her badly. After that, that strange guy showed up to be her host, and even though it wasn't officially, that family accepted, because they wanted to get rid of her. Kimihito shows compassion, what makes Rachnera mad, saying he's sick of humans pretending to like them, and also says he's just excited about the human part of her. But that's not the case, he finds their legs attractive. Basically our protagonist has a for legs. The government agents show up, saying they want to arrest the person who hurt the strange director. Kimihito thinks the person they want is him, then sends the arachne running, saying he will surrender, which made Rachnera very happy, and liking him very much. Everything settles down and Smith apologizes for her having had to go through it, and as compensation she asks to live in Kimihito's house, which the agent accepts easily. In their residence, the new member already gives what to say. Mia was very jealous with another rival, even more so naughty. The others have no objection to her coming, only Centuria I start to get very overprotective, wanting to go to the bathroom with him, what does not happen, and so Rachnera who was there waiting to tie him up, but by the noise they help him. During the night, again he is attacked by Arachne, for them to make love, but Centuria appears and takes him away. The Centaura reveals that in reality does not like anything Rachnera, by the way she acts and treats the protagonist. Suddenly, again that couple of assholes appears, only this time with the group of delinquents. One of them hold the protagonist, and the others intend to do harm to Centuria, which by law could not hurt them. And before they can do anything Rachnera appears and makes them faint in fear. The Centaura asks if she doesn't care about the law. Meanwhile, Rachnera says something very simple, just nobody know. The Acne tries to do naughty things to Kimihito again, so protecting him, Centuria reveals how he really feels about her, who finds it cute, and says that not liking someone is something normal and has no problem, so they decide to leave. With the relationship of the two much better than before, Kimihito gets some disease and needs to stay in bed. They want to take care of him, but Smith comes to preventing, speaking that this is a new virus by the current coexistence of humans with hybrids. The agent says that he is there to take care of him, but this is a lie. She left the other agents handling the paperwork and just wants an excuse not to work, so much so that she slept in the first 10 minutes, so they decided they would have to take care of him on their own. But which one has the greatest chance of having contact with him without catching any disease? Slime Sue, who goes to his room with their teachings, which are basically various naughties, which would not help at all, but before Rachnera could teach something useful, Slime had already gone, doing everything she had learned, but apparently making the situation worse. She puts her tentacle on his head, to understand what Kimihito felt. In reality, he did not have a dangerous virus, but rather had a fever from being cold. The day before, Sue got stuck in a place without being able to leave because of the rain, so the protagonist went there to help her, handing her umbrella to her. However, getting without, and so became ill. She gives his liquid to him for a long time, thus making him better. The other girls enter the room, and come across something surprising. Sue speaks normally and explains the situation, in addition to saying to the despair of Mia, who also loves his master Kimihito very much. Smith called the protagonist for a kind of encounter. Knowing this, the girls followed, thinking she wants their mail. Mero even disguises herself as a waitress, but it does not work. They leave the cafe and continue what seems to be an encounter with Poppy also getting along with another disguise. Now it's the turn of Mia and Centuria, which does not end well for the Centaura. Alone, Mia spies on them in the greatest snake style of Metal Gear Solid. What's stopping to think is a great joke being that she's kind of a snake, until she finds Rachnera, who with several wires scattered around the city finds them. The spider's plan is to catch them in the act, to be able to blackmail Kimihito and he do whatever she wants. In the bedroom window where they were, Mia tries to stop her, until the two are pulled inside, and the agents of the New Order of Monsters point guns at them. All of that was a front, because Kimihito received a threatening letter from someone named D, who said, "Marry one of them and you die." So they decided to lure whoever sent the letter with this meeting, which didn't work out so well. Seeing that it would not work with her, Agent Smith asked them to have a meeting with him, in order to capture the offender. The first are Mia and Mero, who wants to support the snake girl with the relationship of the two, for wants to be the mistress and not the main. They go in a park with several aquariums and fish. Mero is treated like a goddess there, so they get free pass to wherever they want. The mermaid leaves them alone, who have a lot of fun together. They see two fish kissing, which causes almost the two to kiss as well, but before that could happen, Mero interrupts them, saying that those two fish were males. Which makes Mia pretty mad. Mero makes a show with some dolphins, leaving Kimihito impressed, and seeing that he did not take his eyes off the mermaid, Mia gets jealous and goes away, bumping into a lizard man, who sympathizes with her, for, as the two are cold-blooded, he gives her a drink, and they both go somewhere warmer. With a small boat they go to the middle of a pond, until when she starts talking all passionate about her beloved, the guy gets too pistol, and says he will pick her up for him, and will hurt whoever gets in his way. Apparently he is the bandit who threatened Kimihito, and intends to take Mia's force for him, until suddenly, the protagonist appears in a swan boat. Mero steals his oars, and the protagonist hits him with everything, saving her and handing over your marriage to warm her up. Nice as he is, he also tries to help the Dragonoot, who is actually a girl, who just wanted a reptile friend and walks away ashamed of her clothes having opened. Kimihito bought a gift for Mia, a necklace that left her loving him even more. And Draco was taken by Smith, who intends to take care of her. Kimihito took Poppy and Sue to a picnic, with Zombine as their escort. She reveals that there have been thrown several industrial garbage containing a deadly virus capable of turning humans into zombies or even leaving you giant. Suddenly, a monstrous tree appears and attacks them. The protagonist runs out carrying both. However, he and Poppy end up being caught and Sue is thrown directly into the toxic compound. Inside that monster tree has a very beautiful dryad, named Ki, who hates humans. Apparently Poppy and she are friends, While flying around, she found her, for having separated from her group. The girl was weak without water and earth. Then the harpy took her into the forest, where from a little girl she became a woman, and by having a bird's brain, she had forgotten all this until now. For the hatred of humans, Dryad intends to hurt Kimihito. Poppy tries to stop her, but is too weak. Then appears the super slime Sue, in a giant and speaking super well. She said that because of the toxic waste, the Dryad managed to amplify their powers, and to overcome it they will have to drain them. And how will they do that? Look guys, I can't even tell you exactly what happened. Let's say Kimihito took milk straight from the source. After the mess was over, Smith shows up, but the protagonist protects Ki, saying that the fault of all this is the garbage disposed of irregularly, and they allow the Dryad to live right there in the forest. Now it's Centuria's turn to have a meeting with his master. They were walking down the street, until they get a call from Monaco, which says they have a little problem. The idea of them going out on dates with him is to find the culprit of the threatening letters, but with a Centaura wearing a full armor this will be very difficult. She takes off the helmet at the request of Kimihito, and upstairs in the building where the Mono Eye is, a little girl appears and is frightened to see his appearance. In reality this is a lie. She is actually a demon girl, named Lilith, and did it in order to play with Centuria. They go to a park to picnic. She made him some sandwiches, until Rachnera, who appeared there, said she had no taste of anything. That's why she did not try to make them, as she does not eat meat, did not do it, so did not know how to balance the flavors. Sad for not having been able to do something tasty, she walked back to the protagonist. Centuria attacks him, crazy to breed with him, but suddenly a boar appeared to attack Lilith. Then wearing his coat the protagonist makes him hit a tree, becoming his new target, until Centuria appeared and knocked out the animal with a log. She is very upset, saying that it is only for this, and wants to be more reliable and indispensable. So the protagonist rides her, hugs and says that he will always need her. After that, Rachnera captured the boar and the evil girl, taking revenge for all the mischief she did already at home. Centuria and Kimihito prepared several dishes only with salads and greens. However, as the girls want meat, they give all that food to Sue, which, because it is a slime, can eat anything that can be ingested. Tionisha takes Kimihito to a cafe, where the other monster agents are. There they show him another threat letter, and say that now they will go out on a date with him, not by order of Smith, but because they want. Having to watch the others hanging out in meetings with him left them wanting to have the same. The first is Tionisha, with his gigantic front commission, in a clothing store. She gets stuck in one for being too big, so he goes there to help. She is very upset that she liked the play very much. However, as the protagonist knows how to sew, said he could increase the dress for her, receiving a super hug of thanks. The next is Zombine, who took him to the cinema, in which both watched a horror movie with zombies. While walking, she lost one of her hands, so in a cafe the protagonist sewed it for her, which impressed her, for he did not sketch any disgust or repulsion of it. In order to leave him stranded, she removes the suture from one of her breasts, making him sew. However, ends up enjoying it too much, and the protagonist ends up getting excited and bleeding from the nose. The next one is Monaco, who, because she doesn't like being around people, asks both of them to go to a more private place. They go to a bench away from people, where the two drink tea. Monaco was worried, because usually people look at her differently when they see her single eye, believing that Kimihito might just be pretending, but when looking at him sees that's not the case. Unlike the others, the protagonist was looking directly into her eye no matter what made her happy. Suddenly a suspicious person started running from them. The other agents appear and manage to capture her, and when they went to see, it was Doppel, who, even though he said before he did not want to be there, was curious about what was happening. They separate. While returning, in a conversation between them, we discover that it was Doppel who sent the first letter of threat, but knows nothing about the second. And in front of a market, a scythe crosses Kimihito's neck. In fact, that gun had a kind of hole that did not hit the protagonist, and at home he arrives with a new monster girl, who scares Mia for being headless. Then leaving her there, he decides to go out to look for the rest of her body, but not alone. The others, with the exception of Rachnera and Sue, go along with him. After a few scares, they manage to find the head of the girl, who claims to be a Sephadora of souls, playing evil, but in the end was only asking for his help, who asked about that letter, but before she could answer, she felt someone doing little things with her body. It was the damned spider. who asked to stay there for this purpose. However, Sue stopped her and everyone together returned home, where their dynamics got better, with her drinking and eating straight through the hole in her head without any apparent explanation. She reveals that she is a goddess of death and was there because someone in that neighborhood was about to die, and to the despair of them all, that person who is near death is Kimihito. She summons his scythe, but before he could do anything, Rachnera to trap her in his web. Poppy picks him up and flies away, but as he does not see very well the night beats, and he is saved by having fallen on Sue. Centuria put on a saddle and decided that he will travel without stopping with Kimihito, until he finds a totally safe place. The Sea Fedora finds them, then the Centaura throws him into the river, where Mero was waiting for him, thinking of the possibility that he could not escape certain death. The mermaid says she wants to have a piece of it forever, so she took it to the bottom in order to make him put his seed in it, so if he died she would still have their children, but before she got Mia saved him, but on the surface, Rachnera tied her up. The spider says that they have no way to stop what was about to happen, so they should end it soon without unnecessary suffering. She does not accept this, saying that if to take the life of her beloved was to take hers too, so at least they could live together in paradise. Fed up with all this history, the protagonist gets up and goes to the road, saying not to be afraid of what could happen. Then a truck goes in his direction. At home, Smith shows up solving this situation. The girl's name is Lala, and that whole story was an invention of her head. And about the threat letter, she saw Kimihito and found it very strange that a person went through so many dangers and yet survived, so she wanted to help him follow the path of death, and as theoretically this is her job and all the houses that sent her people were healthy, she decided to run. Yes, she wanted Agent Smith to send her to the house of someone about to die. Now with nowhere to stay, Lala asked to live with Kimihito and the others, which the agent accepted easily, because that would have less work for her. While talking to Smith we found out how Kimihito was so strong in the past, despite being almost unbelievable. He was a bad boy student. While I was settling the bills at home and seeing how much money I still had, Kimihito goes into despair. They were already in the red, and with one more member it only got worse, so they would have to survive with the food they had in stock. But when he looked at the refrigerator there was nothing. Mia had just tried to cook ending all the food. With the little money he had left, he and some of the girls went shopping. Arriving at the fairs, the vendors began to hide the products related to them, but Kimihito reassured them, saying that they eat meat. Although Centipede did not eat, Mero impresses a fish vendor, who gives them for free one of their best. Incidentally, by the girls being loved by the merchants and inhabitants there, they deliver some dead-end products to them, thus getting the foods they needed. Alone with Sue, Kimihito says that because they eat so much they want to take a few more things. Slime says that they can eat anything that can be ingested so they do not have to feed her. However, the protagonist says that they are a family, then they should eat the same food together. Sue takes Kimihito to the Dryad Forest, which understands their situation and lets them take what is necessary. Thanks to Sue, they can differentiate the poisonous plants from the good ones for consumption, and with that they go well loaded. However, Sue turned into a poison slide, getting the purple color. While walking home, Draco finds the two, attacking him saying he wants Mia only for him, and being defeated by a jet of poison and frightened by Sue. Arriving home, he prepared a feast for them, being glad they got food for a while, until Smith appears with his whole group, wanting, as always, to eat the food prepared by him, then turning into a cooking monster. He prepares food for all. However, all the food they had achieved ended up finishing. Smith asked why he seemed upset, so Sue revealed the reason, which she was surprised, because all the hosts have an allowance with all necessary food. Good guys, this was the summary of the first season of Monster Musume. Even after so long of its release, has not yet been confirmed a second season, but if one day has, I will bring here for you. Leave the like, subscribe to the channel and comment below. I hope all is well with you. Until next time.